Welcome and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Today's webinar is being recorded and the recording will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now, I'd like to turn the call over to your host, Ms. Kim Brown. Kim, you may begin.
Thank you, Greg. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on how to access education data. My name is Kim Brown, and I'm a training specialist here at the U.S. Census Bureau. I want to thank you for joining us today for the Back to Data Basics webinar series. The series was created by the Census Academy team here at the Census Bureau. You can register for any of the webinars at the Census Bureau homepage. Just visit census.gov/academy. We think these webinars will be a valuable opportunity for you to learn from our experts about how to access and utilize a variety of Census Bureau data products, tools, and resources. Before I introduce today's speaker, let's go over a few housekeeping rules. As mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded. For your convenience, it will be posted to our Census Academy site within 30 business days. We'll post all supplemental materials, including the PowerPoint slides. In terms of how to ask questions during the webinar, you can submit your written questions using the Q&A panel, which is at the bottom center or right side of your WebEx screen. Please take a moment to locate that now. Once you have found the Q&A panel, make sure you choose all panelists from the drop-down menu. This will ensure we see your question. Don't send your question to an individual panelist. Also, we ask that you do not include any personal or business identifiable information with your questions. Now let's take a look at the chat panel. Look for that on your screen now. It's probably right next to the Q&A panel. Definitely keep that chat panel open also, because this is where we will provide key links and other resources. Keep in mind, you won't be able to respond to the chat. Chat is just for us to send you links and other resources. In the chat box, we will be sharing through the webinar the link for our evaluation. We are very interested in hearing from you how we're doing. My colleagues David Krager and Carol Miller will be monitoring the Q&A panel. As time allows, we will answer your question directly through the Q&A panel, or we will share your question with the presenter to respond to after the presentation. If we don't get to all the questions with the response during the webinar, we will post the questions and responses with the webinar materials within 30 business days. Lastly, near the end of the webinar, we'll put into chat the link for the evaluation, as I mentioned previously. We hope you'll take the time to complete, as we always are looking for ways to improve our training. As you know, we are in a virtual environment, and sometimes technical difficulties may occur. If you're having any issues, try a different browser such as Chrome, or consider logging out and coming back into the session. If you are having audio issues, try selecting the computer audio or calling into the webinar via phone. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker, Susie Privet. Thanks again for being here, Susie. You may begin.
Hello. So we ask questions about the highest level of education a person has completed and the field of any completed undergraduate college degrees to create statistics about education. We compile the results from these questions to provide communities with important statistics to understand the educational needs of children and adults, as well as ensure equal opportunity. We want to make sure that you're aware of all the services that we offer at no cost to you. We've created short videos that we call data gems to help you find the information you need. We also have video tutorials and webinars, such as the one that we're on today, to assist our data users to learn about the data, the tools, and much more. All of this is in one place, census.gov/academy. Our Census Academy is created with you, the data user, in mind. So when you have time, please check out Census Academy. We also offer trainings, whether one-on-one or in a group, workshops for your departments, or if your association needs a speaker on a census topic. So my name is Susanna Privet. I'm your instructor today. I am a data dissemination specialist. And what that really means for you is that I am a resource for everything census. My colleagues and I work very hard to assist data users in finding the data that they need. I primarily assist users in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, but honestly, I can assist anyone as well as my coworkers. We cover the United States and Puerto Rico. So these are some of the topics that I'm going to cover today. I am going to do a live demonstration, and then we'll have time for some questions at the end. But don't worry, I'll be happy to answer any questions at a later date as well about what we're going to talk about today. So let's start with a little history. The topic of educational attainment originated in the 1940 census when we asked a couple of questions. Did the person attend school or college at any time last year? What was the highest grade of school that that person completed? Later, questions were transferred to the American Community Survey in 2005, when the American Community Survey replaced the decennial census long form. Now the American Community Survey asks, what's the highest degree or level of school this person has completed, and what specific majors or any bachelor's degrees has this person received? The undergraduate field of degree topic was added to ACS in 2009. So we're all here today because we know the importance of data for the topic of education. Now, this small, tiny list that I have on the screen is just the tip of the iceberg as far as entities that use educational data. And some of you may be here today from one of these organizations or groups. So let's talk about data sources. We have several survey and censuses that collect data on education. For today's presentation, we're going to focus on data from the American Community Survey. Now, I have listed some of the other surveys and censuses that have data, but the American Community Survey was started in 2005, and it is an annual survey. The current population survey has been around since 1942, and that is collected monthly, quarterly, and annually. The survey of income and program participation is an annual program since 1984. Now, the annual survey of school system finances has been around since 1977. And the economic census is done every 5 years, and that's been since 1905. The census of governments is also collected every 5 years, and that's been since 1957. And county business patterns is an annual census since 1964. Now, there's much more data that we collect. However, some of data that's collected is passed on to the agency that we actually collect the data for, and it is disseminated on their websites. So we have a new tool that I'm really excited to talk about, and I hope that you'll take a look at it. You'll give us some feedback, sharing your thoughts on this tool. It's called Census Survey Explorer. I've included the link, but actually, if you go to census.gov and in the search box at the top of the main page, you type in Census Survey Explorer, you'll get this page. Or even if you Google Census Survey Explorer, it'll bring you to this page as well. So the great thing about this new tool is that you can search by topic, by geography, and by frequency of collection. So I always, since I started with the Bureau, had a running list of surveys that I would come across or became familiar with. And now it's basically all in one place. And the titles of the surveys are hyperlinked. So when you click on those, they will take you directly to the page for that survey. So I really think this is going to help you to find the data that you need much easier. So not only do we have surveys, but we've actually created a program called Statistics in Schools. This program was created for teachers, students, and schools using real-world census data. So Statistics in Schools is for K through 12th grade students, and the materials and activities are actually created by the teachers with us. It's very easy to use, and some of the topics that are used in the activities and materials are math, English, history, geography, sociology. You wouldn't think that those topics would be included, but I think if you'll take a look at statistics in schools, you'll be really surprised with the amount of material that's covered. So as I mentioned before, we're actually going to focus on the American Community Survey. And honestly, that's because we're limited with time. If we had much more time, or you were having a one-on-one session, I could go into much more detail. But today we're going to cover American Community Survey. So a little bit about the survey, if you're not familiar with it, is that it's conducted every month. The survey is sent to a sample of about 3.5 million housing units, and that's in the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. The survey actually asks a lot of questions on topics that are not on the 2020 census, and in some cases are not on other surveys. The American Community Survey provides information about social and economic needs for your community. And speaking of community, the data is available down to a census tract. If you're not familiar with that level of geography, that is actually about the size of your neighborhood in an urban area. So that is a great option when you're looking at data to use American Community Survey as your source, simply because you're going to get the really local level data. Now, let's talk about tables, and we're going to go into these tables with a little bit later, but I just wanted to mention some of the tables and explain a little bit about them. Now, I actually created a list, again, because we don't have enough time to talk about all the tables that are available. I've actually created a list of all the educational data tables from the American Community Survey. And that's a document that will be available when you go to Census Academy and look up this webinar in the future, and you'll be able to have access to that. So we're going to take a look at a data profile table. Now, these are wonderful places to start if you're not sure where to go looking at data. You may not know all the tables that we have that are available for you to use. So a data profile table, and there's actually 4 in a series. These are great. There's a lot of information in one table, and I'll show that to you. But there are three others besides the DP02, and that's the table ID number. There's DP03, which is economic information, DP04, which is related to housing, and DP05, which has to do with age, gender, race, and ethnicity. So those will, I think, if you've not already used them, become go-to tables for you. Also, subject tables. Now, subject tables offer both estimates and percentages for a variety of topics. The data is available down to the census tract, so that's good. These are some really basic tables that you might want to make note of. The S1501 is educational attainment. S1502 is field of bachelor's degree for first major. And S1401 is school enrollment. I think a lot of you will use those pretty frequently. Base tables, or as we call them, the B tables. These are probably the most comprehensive ACS tables. The data on these tables is available down to the block group level. And here's a couple examples. B14001, school enrollment by level of school or grade for the population 3 years and over. B14004, sex by college or graduate school enrollment, by type of school, by age for the population 15 years and over. Let's all say that 3 times. That's a definite winner in the longest name for a table award. B14007, Between You and I, is one of my favorite tables, and we'll see a little bit later. That's school enrollment by detailed level of school for the population. Now, I do want to mention, and we'll look at one later, when you're looking through a list of table results, when you're doing your searches, you may see tables that start with a C, and they're going to look really familiar to a lot of the B tables that you're finding. The C actually stands for collapsed tables, and since they cover the same topics as the base tables, you're going to wonder, why do they have 2 different tables? Actually, the C table has a few less categories than the B tables. So take a look at both if you come across them and see which one really works for you. Now let's talk about data tools. So today there's only 2 that I'm going to talk about. The first one is Quick Facts. If you've never looked at Quick Facts, I think you're going to like that table, especially if you're limited in time and you're needing some basic information. And then we're also going to look at data.census.gov, our new platform that truly does streamline the way you access data. So I'll be doing the demos on those. So if you'll just give me a moment here, I'm going to switch gears. So let me go over. Okay. So now we're going to go to census.gov. And the reason that we're going to census.gov is because that is where you can find Quick Facts. So Quick Facts has been located in the middle of the main page of census.gov for quite some time. Now they may change the location later, but always look for the little box and it says Quick Facts or Access Local Data. And when you do that, you can just click on the box itself or the little arrow to access it. Or maybe not. Okay, so this is the main page for Quick Facts. As it states here, the geographies that you'll be able to use on Quick Facts or states, counties, and cities and towns with a population of 5,000 or more. My hometown in Central Texas actually just made the 5,000 population mark, so I can actually look that up now. But if it's below 5,000, you may not be able to find that geography on this list. So you may look at quick facts and scroll through and think, well, this isn't everything that you have. Why do you have these particular statistics listed here? Well, that's because what is collected here is our most requested statistics, whether it's from our website or from our call center. And so they've just grouped them all together in an easy place to access these. Now, if you don't select a geography, it will always default to the United States. So if you come in, you're in a hurry, you're pulling it up, and then you see United States, it's because you haven't selected a geography. So let me just put in, so I want to look at Dallas, and I can see here there's quite a few, but I'm going to select Dallas, Texas. So I've added that. And you can do up to 5 geographies. So let me just add one more that we can take a look at real quick. So several Austins, but I'm going to look at Austin, Texas. So now I have 3 geographies, United States, Dallas, and Austin to take a look at. So this is good if you're wanting to compare or quickly get numbers for several locations for your presentation or your report that you're doing. Let's scroll down. And here's education. So here we have high school graduate or higher, percent of persons age 25 years and over. And so here are my percent results. And then bachelor's degree or higher, percent of persons 25 years and older. And here's the results for that. Now, if you're wanting to use one of these numbers, maybe you need to cite or find out what the source of this particular statistic is. You can always click on the I information button and you're going to get a pop-up window. And the reason that I really am excited to tell you about this information button is because there's more to it than meets the eye. I mean, not only does it give you the source of the statistic you're looking at and some definitions, but if you scroll down, here it says education data from other sources. So even if you come to the site and you don't know where to get started, actually quick facts is a gateway to the data you're looking for. So for example, if I click on this and I'm going to open it in another tab, so that I can show you where it goes. And this is going to be for any topics. In this case, because it's education, it actually takes me to the education topic page. So again, even if you don't know where to get started, you know what your topic is, what you're looking for. Here, you can go to several places. You can go to data, you can go to publications, you can scroll down, see the latest news with educational statistics, go to data information or publications. We even have visualizations that you might want to use in your presentations. And visualizations, pictures, anything like that that you find on our website is available to anyone that wants to use it. There's no copyright on that. So keep that in mind. But that is what I really like as one of the benefits of quick facts is that if you don't know where to get started, it'll help you get started. So let me go back. So I'm going to close out quick facts. Okay. So that's all I'm going to talk about quick facts for now, but I hope that you'll check it out. So now let's go to data.census.gov, and we'll be in this tool from this point forward. So for this webinar, I'll be using advanced search. Obviously, with data.census.gov, it was born in 2018, and we have really been working on it, refining it, and we really welcome your feedback on anything you see, anything you think needs to change or be added. Please don't hesitate to let us know, because the more you tell us, the better we make it for you, for all of us. So you can type in the search box, educational data for Austin, Texas, and hit the search button and get started. But for today, we're going to concentrate on using advanced search. So there's a hyperlink here for advanced search. I'm going to click on that. So you'll see that that takes us to a page, if you've not been here before, with filters on the left. But let's say that you already know the table that you're looking for. Somebody suggested a table, and they gave you the table number or the table ID. So let's use DP02. I talked about that earlier. So, whoops. So I'm just going to type it here in this search box and just go straight to search, just to see what that table looks like. Now, when you do that, it's going to give you results based on what you put in the search box or you use filters. So here, because I have the table number, it takes me right to the table on the list. You may notice it says view all 24 products. And when you click on that, actually it gives you other years or vintage of the data that's available. Maybe you are working on a project that requires you to look at some historical data. And so you can access that from here if you'd like. But let's just go ahead and click on this. So here on the DP table, you see at the top the name of the table. And then here again, you can select different years if you need to, right below the name. Now I'm going to click on the double arrows that you see on the results panel. That's going to close it out and give me more space to see the table. So when you don't select a geography, if you forget and you just select your topic or the table number, it's always going to default to the United States, as you see here, because I didn't do that. So let's say I was given this table number and I'm thinking, well, I don't see anything about education here. Let's scroll down. But as scrolling down, I want you to notice the arrows, and you can actually collapse some of these if you want to get them out of the way, or you don't want to get confused looking at some of this. You can always collapse that. So here we are. Here's school enrollment, and then I see educational attainment. So that must be the data that's available on DP02. So here we see that it's population 3 years and over enrolled in school. I can see it's giving me not only a number, but a percent. And then I see the margin of error and the percent margin of error. Now, because of the ACS survey being a sample survey, and many times you're looking at smaller level geographies, sometimes the margin of error will be higher, and that is a decision that the data user will need to make on using the data that they find. But if you're looking at a table and you don't want to look at the margin of error right now, maybe you've got 16 counties that you're looking at numbers for, you can always click the margin of error button at the top, and that will hide that column or columns so that you only see the information that you really want. Under educational attainment, we see it's population 25 years and over, and then it breaks it down into the different levels of education. So let me remind you, there are other DP tables, DP 03, 04, and 05. And keep these in mind when you're wanting to look at an area you're not familiar with. And that's a great way to start. So let's look at something else. So I'm going to go to filters here in the top left corner. And so when you go back, if this is not what you're looking for, you're wanting to change or add geography, if you want, you can hit clear all here in the red. And when you do that, you're always going to get a pop-up box to ask you if you really do want to do that. And yes, I do. So I'm going to clear all. But I do want to note that sometimes when you do that, it will default to this table from the public sector annual survey. It's okay. It's just the default where it lands when you clear. So don't worry that you've done something wrong. So I'm just going to continue on, and I think I want to look for school enrollment by grade level of schools. And I think I'm going to select my geography first because I know I want to look at Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I clicked on the geography filter. It takes me to the panel for that. And here I see place. Now, place is actually what we call city, town, village, or a borough. So that's just our terminology. So I'm going to click on that. Once you do that, you have to tell it what state the geography is in. So I'm going to scroll down and find Oklahoma. Click on that. So now I can either scroll down the list of places, or actually up at the top, I can type Tulsa, and there it is, Tulsa, Oklahoma. So now I've got my geography. Now I want to look at school enrollment. So let me just X out of this panel and go to topics. And I see education here, so I'm going to click on that. And because I'm interested in school enrollment, I'm going to click on school enrollment. And looks like school enrollment again. And then I see that I've got some results here. So let me X out of this topics panel. And so now I'm looking and I see the very first table is school enrollment. Oh, that's good. So I can see a whole list of other tables, but because I'm interested in school enrollment by grade level of schools, let me just search a little bit here. And here's the table I'm most interested in. So let me click on this table. And now I'm going to just click on the double arrows so that I can get rid of all the other panels. And here's B14007. And if you remember, I told you before, this is kind of one of my favorite tables for school enrollment, only because, as you see here, it gives you the numbers by each grade. And I think that a lot of people don't realize we have data like this. So here it is. Are they enrolled in school? And then by each grade. At the bottom, if they're not enrolled in school. So you can see this is a good table to keep in mind. Now, also, as I mentioned before, there's C tables. And so there's a lot of similarities. Just take a look at those. This particular table goes down to the block group level. So if you're going to look at this table more than once, or any table, I really suggest that you download the table or tables. Here we have Excel. If you click on Excel, it will go ahead and download into Excel. And you can see here at the bottom, then CSV. You can see that as well. And then you also have the option of zip. So if you're wanting a zip file, it will give you the option of downloading other years if you're interested in that, and then clicking the download button to get that. So now let's go back and look at another table. So I'm going to clear all. And so I'm actually wanting to look at educational attainment. And so I'm going to go to my topics, and I see that I don't have educational attainment. I can use my back button and start from the beginning. So education, educational attainment. Okay, so I see I've got some results. So now I want to look at my geography, and I've decided that I'm going to look at some counties. So I'm going to use the back button to get back to the Select Geography panel, click on county, and this time I'm interested in counties in Hawaii. We're all interested in Hawaii. So here I actually see that I can select all the counties in Hawaii. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to X out of that panel and then click the double arrows. So now we can see the table. So here's educational attainment. Now, one thing that you can do so that you can see more, besides hide your margin of error, if you just hold your cursor on the line with your estimates, you can see a little menu comes up. So you can auto size all or one column. I'm going to auto size, so that saves me some space here. So we're looking at educational attainment. This is a subject table, S1501. And so you can see that this is broken down into age ranges. We can scroll down and see the different ranges. This table also has race and Hispanic or Latino origin by educational attainment. So you can see that also. That is broken down by the level of educational attainment. And then if you continue to scroll on S1501, the poverty rate by educational attainment and median earnings by educational attainment. So this particular table has a lot of data available, and that's S1501. Now, sometimes you'll see that there may be a letter in one of the cells that you're looking at on a table. And so in order to figure out what that means, you can always click on the notes button. That'll give you a pop-up. You can scroll down and see the explanation of the symbols that you find on the table, plus the source, if you're forgetting that, or other information about the table itself is under notes. Okay. So now let me show you another table. So I'm going to go back to filters. I'm going to clear all. And this time I'm going to select my geography. So I'm going to hit the back button, and I'm going to look at counties. I'm going to leave that there in Arizona. I'm going to look at all the counties in Arizona. And without even asking for any topics, I've already got quite a few results. But let's go over to the topics. And I'm going to go back to education and then just click on education. I'm going to X out of that panel, and then I'm going to scroll down. Excuse me. So we're going to take a look at B14001. I'm going to close out the double arrows. This is school enrollment by level of school for the population 3 and over. And here you can see the different counties from Arizona across the top. You can always add more geography, hitting the geography button, add different topics. All of our tables are a combination of no more than 3 topics. So you can select other topics to look at here. Now let's see if we can take a look at a map. So we have a map button here that I'm going to click on. And so it's zooming in to the geography that I selected, which is Arizona. And so we can do several things here with the map feature. So first of all, because we came out of that table, we can click on variables and see all the variables that were included in the table that we were looking at. So you can scroll down. So let's say that I was looking at enrolled in college, undergrad years. If I click on that, you can see that the table changes with the color classes here. But I can also click on the map. It gives me the name of the county and then the number corresponding to enrolled in college undergrad years estimate. So that would be the estimate for that. And you can see that you can click on all the different counties and it will give you the totals for that. Now, let's say you want to look at the boundaries. Let me zoom in a little bit here. It already has defaulted the boundaries for the counties and the names of the counties. As you scroll in, you can see that, but maybe you want some more detail. You can click on base map and you can actually see some other geography features underneath. You can always change the colors of the classes. You can change the actual classes from natural to other. Here also, it's another option you have. Layers, if you want to change the level of geography, you can do that here as well. Now, keep in mind that some of these may not be available for the variable that you've selected, but that is an option for you. So if I want to select maybe a different variable to map, not enrolled in school, let me zoom out a little bit so we can see that. So if you're wanting to go back and take a look at the numbers, so not enrolled in school, here are the numbers for all of them on the little side table next to the map. You can do that. So if you want to have a program like some type of Snagit or something, you can copy the map and share that on a presentation or a PowerPoint. If you want to go back to viewing the full table, you can click here on full table. So again, there's a lot of different options for viewing tables and finding data. I wish I had much more time today to be able to show you even more. And I hope you will go and get the list of the tables, and it's a 3-page document. So there's quite a few tables that I'm not able to share with you today. I just wanted you to see some basic tables and show you how to access those. So again, if you're wanting to look for anything, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Let me go back to the PowerPoint here. Because I do want to say thank you. I'm sorry that that was so quick and basic, but this is just the tip of the iceberg for the data that we have on education. I hope that you'll contact me and we can talk one-on-one or with your groups about census data on education or any other topics. My colleague Carol and David, I believe, have been answering questions in chat. So I'm going to turn this back over to David and Carol if there's any questions.
Hi, Susie. Yeah, great presentation. Lots of information there you shared. We had several questions about geography, sub-state, sub-county levels of geography, which I think you went over with some detail. And also with a couple of questions about race information. Sorting education by race. Now I know that list of tables that will be posted with the recording on Census Academy will detail a lot of that. But
Yes.
would you like to share just a minute or two about how to define the geographies or pick out the topic of race as well as education?
Yes. So, and again, please don't hesitate to contact me personally so that I can go over anything that's not clear today. But we do have under topics, race and ethnicity. So once you go into topics, and for example, if you're looking at education, you can select education and whatever it is under education you're looking for. And then you can go in and select the topic of race and ethnicity. And then there is much more detail under that as to what you would like to select and include that. And so that will filter down the tables to show, for example, education for Hispanic and Latino, if that's the ethnicity that you're looking for, and just give you the tables. I may make it sound a little simple. It really is. It's just knowing where to go and find the topic. So just make sure to go back into topics and select race and ethnicity, and then you can drill down from there to get what you're looking for.
Thank you. I think that sums up the majority of the broad topic questions. If any of you have additional or specific questions, thank you for the contact screen here, Susie, where you can contact Susie herself or census.askdata@census.gov. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you, Susie. That was an awesome presentation. I'd like to remind everyone to take the time to fill out the evaluation. The link has been supplied in the chat, so please feel free to take a moment and fill out the evaluation and let us know how we're doing. I'd like to remind you that our next webinar in this series is coming up on Your Community by the Numbers Community Development on Tuesday, July 12th at 2 p.m. That brings us to a close, so we thank you again and hope you have a great afternoon.
This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.